How Downloading Music Has Affected CD Sales by David Holland, 0101-2452. In 1887, the first gramophone record, or what we commonly know now as vinyl record, was patented. By 1819, gramophone records were commercially available. They were the first recordable home format available to consumers. Cassette tape was developed from magnetic tape, and in 1962 the Philips Company of Eindhoven introduced the cassette and cassette player to the European market. The cassette was aimed at a new market, ordinary people willing to sacrifice sound quality for inexpensive recordings. In 1979, the idea of the CD was conceived by Philips and the Sony Corporation. The two companies argued about the size, shape and technology the CD should support. It was eventually settled on a disc of 115mm in diameter and 74 minutes worth of storage. The reason for 74 minutes of storage was to fit Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Currently, in 2013, compact discs are still widely available, but now it's time to take a look at the next music format that has changed the world and brought the biggest shake-up to the music industry that we ever known, and that is the MP3. In 1987, the German company Fraunhofer Gesellschaft began researching high-quality, low-bit-rate audio coding, a project named Eureka Project EU 147. Out of this research, the MP3 was developed. MP3 stands for MPEG Audio Layer 3, and it is a standard for audio compression that makes any music file smaller with little or no loss of sound quality. By using MPEG audio coding, you're able to shrink the original sound data from a CD by a factor of 12 without losing sound quality. In the early 1990s, Fraunhofer developed the first, however unsuccessful, MP3 player, and it wasn't until two university students named Justin Frankel and Dmitry Boldarev ported AMP to Windows and created Winamp that we saw the first free MP3 music player usable on consumers' desktop PCs, and this boosted the success of MP3. With the release of Winamp and people able to convert their CD tracks into MP3s and store a lot more tracks on their desktop PCs, in 1999 saw the surge of portable MP3 players. With the launch of portable MP3 players, people started compressing music onto their MP3 players, meaning that MP3 had become the modern day cassette mixtape. But for people to be able to put these compressed files onto their MP3 players, they had to be stored on their computers. In 1999, an 18-year-old college dropout named Sean Fanning changed the music industry with his file sharing program called Napster. His idea was simple: a program that allowed computer users to share and swap files, specifically music files, through a centralized file server. The Napster service that lets people download music files from each other if they had the same program became known as peer-to-peer downloading. Due to its ease of use and the wide variety of music and files available from 60 million users in the world, the Napster project became increasingly popular, which eventually spurned off many other different peer-to-peer sites such as Gnutella, LimeWire, Kazaa and Pirate Bay. In early 2001, market researcher IDC forecasted that worldwide shipments of portable MP3 players will grow from 3.3 million units in the year 2000 to 26 million in 2005. It's this kind of forecast that encouraged Apple to eventually break into this market, and in 2002 they launched the Apple iPod. On news that Apple were planning to come into this market, IDC analyst Brian Marr said the following on March 29, 2001. The use of different types of storage will mean price and capacity benefits to consumers, which will drive demand and help the market grow. At the end of 2000, with the increased sales of portable MP3 players and the increase of peer-to-peer downloading across the world, the BPI researched and found that in 2000, the trade value of music sales in the UK had fallen by 25%. In 2007, Jupiter Research UK was commissioned by the BPI to assess the degree of impact that online music piracy has had upon UK record music revenues. Jupiter built a model that captured current activity and forecasted future trends over a 5-year period. The report concluded that online music piracy cost the UK music industry £1.6 billion between 2001 and 2012. On Wednesday the 26th of July in the year 2000, a judge granted the RIAA an injunction against Napster, which meant that the site had to close its service based upon a copyright infringement. Even with the closure of Napster in 2000, other peer-to-peer downloading music services still continue to run. And in 2003, the RIAA issued a press release alerting people to the attention of the illegal downloading of music. They stated that they would be gathering evidence in order to bring lawsuits against computer users who illegally distributed copyrighted music through peer-to-peer file distribution networks such as Kazaa, Gnutella, LimeWire, and Pirate Bay. The Pirate Bay is still causing some problems in the world with its illegal file sharing service. So much that the BPI in 2012 is set to take legal action against the Pirate Party UK because the small political party is running a proxy file sharing service for the Pirate Bay. After the closing of Napster and lawsuits filed against other various peer-to-peer service providers, paying for downloads had to be the next step. So eventually the music industry accepted this way forward, and in 2004 the biggest platform of music legal downloads, known as the iTunes Music Store, was launched. Apple's CEO Steve Jobs in 2004 said, "With a huge catalogue of over 700,000 songs, breakthrough prices of just 79 pence per song, and seamless integration with Apple's widely popular iPod, we think this is the digital music store that Europe has been waiting for." With the launch of the iTunes Music Store, the popularity of downloading individual songs grew the most popular. With this popular increase, single CD sales seriously declined, and single downloading increased to all-time highs. Between the period of 2008 and 2010, CD single sales were already low, but dropped 2.2 million units in 2 years. And in the same period, single downloads increased by 48.2 million units. Jeff Taylor of the BPI commented that music fans continue to embrace the convenience, value and choice offered by the new legal download services. Even though single downloads seem to have skyrocketed and overtaken single CD sales, the same can't be said for album downloads. Album downloads still holds the majority of the overall album sales, but it is slowly decreasing and album downloads are slowly increasing. When we look at album download sales, we can still see that possibly illegal downloading still is playing a part in today's current industry. From the period of 2008 to 2011, album downloads have increased by 16.6 million, whereas the decline in album sales, hard copies, has decreased by 36.8 million. On these figures, that shows over 4 years there's been 20.2 million units of album sales missing. We could put this down to many different economic activities, but I think the BPI is looking at this as there's still a massive, significant gap that is lost to P2P illegal downloading. The UK government recognises that illegal downloading is a problem, and a spokesman for the UK Department for Culture, Media and Sport said, "We will continue to work with industry on how they can better tackle online piracy, but this is not an issue that ISPs or right holders alone can deal with. All elements of the internet industry, payment companies, advertisers, search engines, ISPs and right holders need to play their part in tackling unlawful activity online." The music industry was one of the first sectors to experience a shift from sales of physical goods to online usage, and was one of the most severely damaged. Record labels which had been used to selling CDs and DVDs on the high street were not ready for the change, and many music lovers resorted to piracy instead of paying for legal versions. However, new data from the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, the global music industry trade body, suggests that the music industry may now be turning a corner. Philip Buxton, an independent digital media consultant, told the BBC in January 2012 that people now buy the individual songs they like rather than buying the whole album because they like a single. So they might buy the single and then use services like Spotify and Last.fm to listen to the other tracks, and are then much more selective about what they purchase. The implication for the record industry is that they need to embrace this new model rather than fight it. The music industry in 2013 is a different place compared to 1980. People's buying habits for music have changed, and people's listening habits have changed, especially with services like Spotify and Last.fm enabling streaming on websites. 14 years later, after the launch of Napster and peer-to-peer downloading, Catherine Rushton of The Telegraph wrote on the 26th of February 2013, "The improvement in the music industry is still very modest, with growth of just 0.3%, valuing the industry at £11 billion. However, the watershed moment of this growth will give hope to many different industries whose business models have been turned on their heads by the internet."